Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and this is the first episode of a 5-part series where we'll be discussing elemental magic, the properties, correspondences, and energies of the elements and how to work with them to enhance your practice.
And I'm Chelle, and I am super excited about this because I feel like this is something that we've kind of skirted over multiple times on multiple episodes, but we've never really dove in to each element and the magic that is each of the 5 elements. So I'm super excited. So welcome everybody, and we hope that you get as much out of this as we do.
We have talked about working with different energies, but we've never really named specific energies and how that can feel differently. So in the beginning, we just kind of invite you to work with generic energy. And now we're going to talk about working with specific types of energy and how that can enhance your practice and your magical workings. But first, I kind of want to talk a little bit about some mail. Not too long ago, we did a mail call solarium, and we talked about a couple gifts that we received. One in particular was the Forever Wick candles that we both got gemstones. Chelle got a beautiful little emerald, and I got a gorgeous little ruby, and I love the scents. I was actually burning my Forever Wick candle this past week at Sirius Rising because it smelled so pretty and floral. But we want to send a big thank you out to Gail, one of our listeners, Gail R., who sent those in to us. Thank you very much.
Gail, we love you. You're so awesome. You know, you're always giving some great comments and great advice on the Facebook page. You send us wonderful things. So, Gail, we love you. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best to Gail. Lunasa harvest blessings and blessings for the rest of the season. And every time I light that candle now, I'll be sending out a little thank you because there's a little bit left, but it smells so flowery sweet. I just love it. So thank you very much, Gail.
I'm not gonna lie, I already burned mine. So there it is. I already burned mine, Gail. So, I loved it when I had it, but I don't have it anymore because I burned it all.
I remember when you first got it, you were burning that thing 24/7. You're like, I'm getting to the prize. I want the prize right now.
I was that person. I'm not gonna lie. But even after I got my prize, I still kept burning it to the bitter end. I love those things. It was just wonderful. My little emerald is so cute.
Yes, and they did burn forever, which is good for candle lasting. Bad if you're trying to dig for the prize inside.
Let me tell you, my patience was wearing thin. I'm not going to lie.
Now, the other thing I have to mention is I have to send a shout out to one of my favorite gifts we've ever gotten in our enchanted beloved PO box, but some spices from Dahlia's Enchanted Kitchen.
Okay, those things were freaking badass, by the way.
Holy cow, do they taste so good. And they're magical. How can you not like a spice blend called The Fool or named after any of the tarot cards?
And I thought it was super sweet that she said that we gave her the inspiration for it. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, if I could inspire more people to create delicious magical businesses, please do tell us all about it because I think I used almost all of the Fool seasoning so far because it's that good. My daughter is probably going to take it with her when she moves, and I'm going to be very sad. So I'll be ordering quite a bit more, but delicious blends, very magical. You can taste the intention.
Well, and there's something about kitchen witchery that we all love, but we're not here for kitchen witchery today.
So thank you guys so much for sending that in. And everybody, thank you for the notes, the cards, everything that you send. You don't have to send a present, although, we do love it when you do. But just the notes and the hellos are fantastic. And so,
but wait, there's more. What surprise do we have that involves our mail?
We do have a big surprise because you guys are so amazing sending us stuff all the time. And we do love getting the mail. We want to give back. So we're going to do a thank you giveaway called Seasons of the Witch.
I love giveaways. I love stuff. I love giving people stuff.
For this particular giveaway, what we've decided to do is for every person who sends us something to our P.O. box from now until October 1st, future Layla note, all of our benefactors are automatically entered. And if you're a benefactor who sends a note to our P.O. box, you'll be entered twice. We're going to be entering you into a drawing for the Samhain Oracle, the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle.
And that's a beauty. If you have not seen it, it's gorgeous. And I'm not a super Oracle fan, but I do really like the Seasons of the Witch series. There's just something about them that does kind of pique my interest. So I'm super excited to be able to give one of our wonderful listeners this deck.
Now, this deck is through Rockpool Publishing, not a sponsor, but it's by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz. And now this is just from Chelle and I, but Juliet Diaz has done some other tarot decks that I really like. And the whole Seasons of the Witch series is absolutely gorgeous. So, anyone that sends us mail, make sure you put your name and an address that we can send it back. And we promise you're not going on any type of mailing list. This is just for this giveaway. But send us your name and address to our P.O. box, which is
P.O. Box 106, Salem, Mass. 01970.
as long as your card or letter is postmarked by October 1st, you'll be entered in the drawing. And then we'll be doing the drawing on October 10th. That way we can send the deck out to our winner so that they can have it during the season of the witch for Samhain.
So one lucky listener is going to have that Samhain Oracle deck in their hot little hands for Samhain. So you want the deck? Send us mail because you know what? I really love going down to the P.O. box and getting mail. It is like the highlight of my day. So send us your address. You are by no means obligated to send us like a gift or anything. So just because we were talking about that doesn't mean you have to send one, but we love them. Send us some mail, postmark it by October 1st, and you too can have the Seasons of the Witch Samhain deck in your hands.
Yeah. As a thank you from Chelle and Layla, because again, thank you guys. We do love getting the mail. It's a lot of fun. So we're going to do this drawing for you guys. But that being said, we are here for elements. We're going to talk about elemental magic.
Now, we're going to start with Earth, and there was a little conversation about this. I want to talk a little bit about why we're starting with Earth. I want the listeners to know with why Earth is our starting point. So for me, I like Earth as a starting point. It could be from all those chants 30 years ago, Earth, air, fire, water. It's just a good starting point, but it's that grounding, it's that centering piece that comes with the element of Earth that just seems to naturally be the first one for me. How about you?
Elements, the elemental energy in itself is worked with by pagans and has been considered to be like a building block of magic and of the universe for literally thousands of years. So that's where I wanted to start. The idea of elements. I want to start with where the idea of working with elemental energies came from. And it's because in a lot of philosophies, people thought that the building blocks of life itself were made up of four energies, sometimes five. Fire, water, earth, and air were the elements that made up everything. It was even written about by philosophers like Aristotle in Greece, it's in India, it's in Hinduism, it's in China. A lot of these philosophies talk about the building blocks of life. And in ancient Greece, they had one of the first examples of the idea that everything's made up of the four elements plus sometimes spirit comes from a Greek philosopher named Empedocles in the 5th century BCE. And Empedocles refers to the elements as the four roots, and he assigned each of these roots to a god or a goddess. He says that earth was aligned with Hera, that air was aligned with Zeus, fire aligned with Adonis, and water was probably aligned to the goddess Nestis. Later, Aristotle, famous philosopher Aristotle, comes in and suggests that ether is the fifth element because the stars and the gods obviously have to be made up of something more special, even more precious than the elements that humans are made up of. So he had this idea of ether, and other places call that spirit or soul, sometimes plasma. Now, when witchcraft had its big revival in the 70s, it came with Wicca, came through Wicca. And this was created by a lot of people, Margaret Murray, Gerald Gardner, Aleister Crowley, Doreen Valiente. Then we've got Raymond Buckland and Alexander Sanderson. Sanders, Alexander Sanders.
Sanders.
The Sanderson sisters are the hocus pocus people, not the people who created
No, no,
witchcraft.
no, no.
Alex Sanders, Gavin and Yvonne Frost, Stuart and Janet Farrar, Laurie Cabot, Starhawk, Margot Adler, Oberon Zell, etc., ad nauseum. So when we learned witchcraft in the 80s, it was still very, very heavily influenced by Wicca. And Wicca was influenced by these philosophers and ideas that had come from even earlier that assigned these building blocks of life, these four elements plus spirit, to the quarters: east for air, south for fire, west for water, and north for earth. And then in the center would be spirit for deity. And that's kind of what we learned in the 80s and 90s. And in Wicca, you started in the east. And the reason for starting in the east was because of the dawn. That's where beginnings are. It's air was associated with the elemental east. And so communication, and that's kind of what you're doing in a spell or a ritual, is communication. So when we kind of came up in witchcraft in the 80s and 90s, that was the prevailing idea. You start in the east because of new beginnings, because of the dawn. I do like starting in the east because of that. But a lot of the chant that I taught my children was earth, air, fire, water. Not just because it rhymed better with daughter, but because earth is family and it's that foundation and it's that basis. And I like starting in the north, in particular, working with energies. It's good to start in the north because there's that grounding element, that foundational
Exactly.
element, and people need that. You need to have that grounding first. So it feels very natural to start there.
And I did struggle because you're right, Wicca does kind of push the start in the East thing. And I never, why am I such a nonconformist? I couldn't conform to that because for me personally, it never made sense. So, you go along to get along. But in my personal practice, it always was Earth first. I understand what you're saying about the history and the philosophy of it all, but when you break away all of that, it just comes down to I just feel that to start working with the other elements, I need to be rooted in, and to be rooted
Yes.
in, you start with Earth.
Starting in the east because of the dawn makes perfect sense. Starting in the north because you need to start from a rooted base makes perfect sense. You could also make an argument to say that you want to start with fire because you want that activation energy. You need that spark to start. Or you could say you want to start in the west because of that movement, the subconscious, the emotions need to get involved. You could make an argument for any of those places to
And
start
none
with.
of them are wrong.
That's right. I would say that most people probably start mostly in the north or the east because of the reasons we said. East for
Right.
new beginnings and air, and north because that foundation being
There's
rooted.
definitely no rule book either.
Right. Well, unless you're Wiccan,
Well,
in which
yeah.
case there's a rule book.
Well, yeah.
But also, now your tradition, the tradition that you're in right now, is Celtic based.
Correct.
And in that tradition, they also start in the north.
Correct. It totally, like, I was like, oh, finally, someone who starts in the north like me.
One of the fun things about Celtic traditions is they're one of the few that doesn't really do the five elements. They're more big on
Right.
threes. Celts love things in threes. They're more about earth, air, water, the land, the air, and the sea. That's what they're big on. But they do have fire festivals. They have like the big fire festivals and everything. So
Right.
they like to tell you that it's three, but there's really that sneaky fourth one that gets in there, the fire, all the time. So.
The first thing we should maybe kind of delve into is why would you want to work with Earth? And you really want to work with all of the elements, but why delve into Earth? Again, I go right back to that grounding, that feeling of connectedness, rootedness, feet on the ground.
There's that big thing lately about earthing or, touch grass, go outside and touch grass. And there's a lot to be said for that because getting your hands in the dirt or getting your feet on the dirt can be very centering. It can help you to feel very connected to the earth, to your body. And that's what that energy feels like. It feels like belonging, like feeling strong in your stance and feeling centered and grounded in your place. And people will talk about grounding as something that you should do before or after any type of energy work. And actually touching the ground can help you do that act.
Right. There's a thing that I've been hearing a lot lately called forest therapy. which,
Mm.
by the way, love the concept. The idea is you kind of disconnect from the real world hustle and bustle, and you just go spend some time in the forest with that literal earth surrounding you. And
I've heard that called forest bathing.
yeah,
Same
same
thing.
thing, essentially. I think different, different groups call it different things, but
Yeah.
there is something to be said for that earth energy, that calm. I feel like with earth energy, there comes some ancient calm, if that makes sense. You've got trees and different things that have been literally alive for hundreds of years, and you're just soaking in that energy. There is a calm in that. And I think the reason I always liked starting with Earth is you start with that calm before you then delve in.
Right.
Earth gives you that chance to shed away the real world hustle and bustle, just like walking into a forest, a nice calm forest. And it almost has you in that prepared state of mind to then move forward with magical working or whatever the case may be.
Grounding literally gives you a stable place to start from. If your mind is too busy, if you're physically feeling too drained, grounding allows you to come to a center. It allows you to feel a connection to that ancientness, to that great mother that will take the excess energy in your brain and help you to root that down to the ground. It's like talking to your mom and getting all of that stuff out so that you can have a calm, clear mind. And then if your body's tired, it also allows you to pull energy from that earth mother, like getting a hug from your mom that just kind of revitalizes you physically. So now you've come to a center, to an equilibrium, to a stable place where you can do that magic. Your brain is calm and quiet. Your body is active and energized, but stable. You're at a center. You're at a nice, clean place to start working energy. And you also have that connection open so that if you need to draw more energy from the earth or be more stable on your feet while you're doing your energy working, you have that line, that link, that connection open to use during your magical working.
And I think that, it's also good to take note that maybe you are not in an area, that has a lot of open space or a forest to go walk in. Maybe you're living in the concrete jungle. I have found that you do these plant things, which by the way, I still have alive. You do what you got to do in a pinch, and sometimes dirt is dirt. Maybe you have a house plant and, you're living in the concrete jungle. There's nowhere for you to really connect with nature in your location. Put your hand in the dirt in your house plant. Have a moment with your plants. And I know it's so weird for me to say, but I'm actually starting to form a relationship with these plants.
Nice.
Don't laugh at me. If you don't have the opportunity for your quote unquote outdoor earth space, you do have an ability to create indoor earth space through things such as houseplants.
And you don't have to connect with dirt physically. Your body is earth. Your physical body is a representation of earth. So even if you're just able to clap your hands, tap on your thighs, tap your hand on your heart a little bit in a drum beat, you are earth. Your body is physical earth, and you can connect to that deeper earth energy through your body. You can also do it through other stones or crystals that you have. But the idea is to connect yourself to a greater power than you, to this idea of stability, of centeredness, of ancient knowledge, of groundedness, all the things that you would describe a large body of earth as. That's what this energy feels like. It feels heavy, it feels slow moving, it feels very ancient and thick and protective and solid.
There's also an element of wisdom to be garnered from that as well. So it's
Yes.
not just that feeling of groundedness, centeredness, that peace and calmness. There's also that sense of gaining that ancient wisdom back up from the earth. You kind of ground out your energy, but what you're pulling back in includes some of that ancient wisdom that can only be garnered from the earth.
Yes.
And you can say that about each element, and we'll get into that as we go. But for earth specifically, you're also not only pulling up back that earth energy, but you're pulling in some of that earth knowledge.
We've talked before about doctrine of signatures and like for like magic. The earth contains your ancestors.
Yep.
We come from the earth and we return to the earth. It retains all of that knowledge. Think of archaeology. We go down through the earth and we learn about our history. We learn about other peoples. and we learn about science and patterns that came before of the earth. So knowledge, deep knowledge, ancestral knowledge is also part of that earth energy. And if you can visualize yourself tapping into that, you can draw that ancient knowledge up into you while you're doing your workings as well.
And I think that that is sometimes a piece that's overlooked with the elements and with elemental magic because, Earth especially, like you said, you're pulling that ancient knowledge up. But I sometimes look at that as the one element where you can garner that wisdom because with air, the wind blows it away. With water, it takes that away with the tides. With fire, it gets burned away. But with earth, it gets compacted into an ancient tomb, so to say.
Yeah, the earth likes to save it. It likes to hold on to it.
It's
And
like the
sometimes,
record keeper of elements.
yeah, and sometimes it's the transformation. And I'm going to take this isn't really a right turn. It's just kind of a little sideways curve. But the way you were talking about the earth got me thinking of how sometimes people like to dispose of their spells or dispose of their ritual items, if they've used it in a
By
working.
burying it or something.
Yeah, and so each element has a way to do that and it means something. So if you're looking to transform something, so say you do a spell to transform a relationship, say with a relative, you want it to be better. And you make an eggshell jar, and into that eggshell jar, you put some seeds of new growth and you put some dirt and fertilizer to foster change and to foster growth and to foster blossoming of bright new beginnings. So you put all these things into your eggshell spell and then you bury it. And the reason you would bury that type of spell is because you want transformation. The earth is about keeping records, yes, but it also is a growth and transformation agent. You
Yep.
put things into the earth when you want them to change.
Yep.
So by burying that type of spell, you're signaling to the magic that you want transformation, growth, and change from this spell. So it matches the element. So I'm kind of glad that you brought that up. So you can work with the earth for that. And so that's a way you can dispose of your spell as well by being respectful of the element and by working with the nature of the element to achieve your spell goals.
Now, you just sparked me to think of something that might end up being a listener question.
Oh, okay.
So, we're talking about how you can gain some of that wisdom back from the earth, pull in the energies of the earth and all of that ancient wisdom. So, you got all these witches across the planet who are now disposing of spells and burying it into the earth. I have a feeling people are going to ask us, are you pulling in any energies that you don't want back from all of these disposed of spells into you? And to,
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I'm going
but
to say no.
to me, I was going to say, I would say no, because as much as it is a record keeper of sorts, it's also the earth is a cleanser.
A
The dirt is a
transformer.
cleanser. It's a transformer. So if you are concerned about pulling up those energies and what residuals might be left over from other folks across the land, I say no, because I feel like that is cleansed by the earth itself. So any energies you are pulling up from Earth in the spirit of Earth are going to be pure Earth energies.
The only caveat I would add to that is if you're working with Earth in general, like Shell said, absolutely 100% not going to be a problem. You'll just be pulling up general Earth, Mother Earth energy.
Right.
If you're working with local land energy, that can very much be contaminated based on what's going on in the area. So you have to be a little cautious when you're tapping into local energies and that land has been polluted or that land has been overworked. You're going to feel that energy when you work with it. It will feel like it's sad or like it's crying out for help.
Same if you were to go to a cemetery, Layla, you want to you be cognizant of where you're doing this, obviously.
Right. Mother Earth energy is very different from local land spirits and local energy.
Just as you wouldn't want to go to, say, toxically contaminated land and do such things, you also wouldn't go dead ass in the middle of a cemetery and do it either, because, you are going to be pulling up energies that aren't always in the spirit of your working.
If you're pulling up general Earth energy, Mama Earth, the Earth Mother, Earth and general energy, that's always going to be great. She's got you, no problem. you're working with a collective whole, the whole system. But if you're working with your local land spirits, it's going to very much reflect what that land is like.
And how that land feels.
I very much recommend hanging out in that space, going for hikes, walking in your local land is definitely a way to connect with it and see how you feel. How do you feel physically? How do you feel mentally after you've done this walk? How does it feel to you? And the more you can tap into that, the more you can start to feel the energies around you of that place.
And I like that you say, go feel your local energy because there's folks out there that they are just natural healers. And maybe there is something that is awry with your local land that you may be able to assist in healing that land.
One of the best ways to connect with earth energy is to volunteer to clean up a park. If you live near a body of water, sometimes they'll have cleanups organized for the land near that water. You can volunteer to clean up a hiking area or a trail near your home, something like that, where you can give back to the land and kind of feel that energy.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, but this was probably, I don't know, geez, like 25 years ago or so, when our local pagan community back in upstate New York, remember we did the Adopt a Highway program and
Hmm.
we would go out every month and clean the garbage off our designated stretch of highway,
Yeah.
which, geez, people throw a lot of garbage outside their car windows. Can we just
So
stop that, please?
wouldn't that be nice?
But that was one way our local community chose for several years to kind of do an earth honoring was and if you don't have this in your local area, I'll just explain it really quick. In New York, there's a program called Adopt a Highway, and different businesses and organizations and groups can quote unquote adopt a section of highway. And then that is your section to kind of keep clean and keep orderly for a designated amount of time. And we would go out once a month and literally walk the sides of the highway with our little garbage pickers and our garbage bags, and we would clean the sides of the road. I think we had that Adopt a Highway for years.
Doing something like that in your area is an excellent way to make an offering to earth energies by healing and cleaning the land locally. Anytime that you go out and work in your local area, it's really great. This time of year, we just celebrated Lunasa. So, working with earth energy, honoring Taltu, the goddess of agriculture, the goddess who gave her life to create agriculture. Right now, there's a lot of farmers markets. There's a lot of food around if you're lucky enough to be in one of the places that has access to local food. So, one of the things that you can do to connect more locally with your land and with the energies around you is to commit to just eating what's local to you, like either in your county or your state in the United States, and also to eat only what's in season. You don't have to do this forever, but pick a period of time, like 3 days, 7 days, 21 days if you're really feeling it. I think Byron Ballard did it for a whole season where she took an oath to just eat local foods, just what was local and seasonal in her area. And it's not easy to do, but it feels very connecting. It feels very healing to connect with the land in that way. So if you're able to, that's definitely something you can do.
And it also gives you the opportunity to connect with the earth without all of the chemicals and yuck yuck that gets put into foods. It gets you kind of in that more natural space physically.
And out at Sirius Rising, the festival we were just at not too long ago at Brushwood Folklore Center, they do elemental rituals for each element. All 5 days, they start it with air, fire, water, earth, and spirit. And for the Earth Day this year, they planted a tree. They're starting a whole grove, a whole circle of trees, and they started by planting the first one this year. So obviously working with trees is an easy way to get in touch with earth energy. And we have a lot of tree meditations that help you with grounding and with connecting to earth energy. And I'll add a short grounding meditation at the end of this episode.
And I know that, right in the moment, we're in August and this time has passed, but to give you some plenty of time for planning, at least in the United States of America, we have a designated Earth Day. And this has nothing to do with religion or spirituality or, it is a designated national day where we collectively try to come together to do things for the earth. And when you said plant a tree, that's what reminded me of it, because there are a lot of opportunities on Earth Day to plant trees, to connect with the earth, to do stuff to heal the earth. I know here in America, it's generally April 20th or thereabouts. So if you want to do something for your community on Earth Day, you got a few months to plan. But I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to connect to certain elements depending on the seasons. I feel like we're winding down my Earth time. And I like that you brought up the harvest gods because I feel like by the time we reach that third harvest, now we just had our first harvest, so we got a few minutes. But by the time we reach that third harvest, it's almost like putting Earth to bed for the winter. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Especially here in the Northeast, absolutely.
That time period from like October to March, I feel like the Earth energies almost go dormant for me. But I think it's just because of the location and the season I'm in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that goes along with honoring the elements where you're at. Because here in the Northeast, the earth does kind of go to sleep for a few months. You
Right.
can still honor that earth energy within yourself by going more within a little bit, working internally, working inside in your home on hearth and home activities, cozy things indoors that you wouldn't necessarily do during the summer. And that's still connecting with that earth energy, just in a different way, just like it's presenting itself differently. And that matches too with, say, when I was living in California. Winter looked very, very different in the high desert than it looks here in the Northeast. It was a nicer time. It was a time when I could get out and go hiking more because the sun wasn't trying to kill me. So I could get out and touch the dirt a little bit better, walk barefoot a little more often. And then when it did start to get colder, that's when you go inside a little bit and start to work inside. So follow the seasons where you're at, and you can still honor those elements just by kind of mirroring how they look in your area, mirror that energy in your personal life.
And that kind of brings me to another really good point I wanted to make is the elements are also associated more often with direction. We've talked about air and earth, and I want to just briefly touch on the north, south, east, west aspect of this.
Okay.
So, traditionally, earth is north, followed by air in the east, and so on. But there is some folks who say that north is air and east is earth. I can't make sense of that in my head. It's almost like the swords and wands thing with tarot. But I think that your presence in place can kind of dictate how you view that as well.
Yeah.
Like you were saying a few episodes back in California, you felt that the directions were a little skewed just based on how things felt due to your place.
The directions and the correspondences come from traditional Wicca. They
Right.
come from Gardner and his co opting of Western European paganism ideas or whole cloth creating, whatever he happened to do. But it was based on that landmass, Western Europe. So traditionally, quote unquote, from the late 1800s, traditionally, the quarters are east air, south fire, west water, north earth. However, where you live should definitely dictate
Right.
how those elements are pulled. So in California, I did still follow that traditional directional thing because the water was west of me and it did feel very, very good that the water was west. So I definitely went with that. But particularly in California, north of me, I mean, I could say north is earth. There were mountains north of me, but there was also a lot of mountains east of me and a big landmass. The entire United States stretched out east of me where I lived on the coast of California. So I could have tried there doing east as earth and north as air, and it probably would have felt very good as long as I was feeling those elements. Sometimes when you do things out of habit, it feels very strange to change that habit. But if you can get into the habit of feeling those energies and working with those energies, it's a little bit easier because if you feel east is earth, then the habit is easier to break.
Now, one thing I've learned in the last few years of living in Salem, Salemites have a even different skew of that. A lot of folks here, and not everybody, I am not speaking for the masses by any means, but I've had conversations with folks, and there's a lot of people here. North, we've got New Hampshire and the White Mountains, totally makes sense. South, the South is just hot, okay? Because we're in the North and it's cold, and the South is hot, so fire all the way. But here they flip-flop east and west because here the ocean is 4 feet to the east.
Ah,
So here in this place, east is giving off more of the what I would call west vibes.
right, right. The water vibes. Yeah.
And we get our weather systems coming from west to east here. So more often than not, we're getting that wind west to east. So a lot of folks here kind of swap out east and west, with east being water and west being air. Again, can't grasp that in my mind.
So we're talking a lot about not only forming mental pathways through habit, but also feeling energy and
Right.
working with the idea of feeling that energy. So some of the ways that you can feel earth are think of times when you really felt in your body, like times maybe you overate, or times when you just got finished doing some work or running a marathon and you really feel all the muscles in your body. Think of a time when you're really sluggish and tired and moving every one of your bones. You could feel that push and pull of your body because you were so tired. That's that heavy, slower kind of energy of the earth. Think slow moving boulders. Think big rocks kind of sitting there and weathering nature. Think Mother Earth herself slowly, slowly changing through eons.
You've got the spirit of these trees. Some of these trees, especially when you're looking at those redwoods up in the Northwest, hundreds of years it's taking
Right.
these things to just slowly rise from the earth.
So things with earth are slow moving. They're deep. The roots of those trees go deep. The roots of a mountain go deep. They reach high into the sky. They're big. They take up space. Earth is not dainty. Earth is take up space and be here now.
But it's also that rooted deep below, but still
Yes.
present up above.
Yes, yes, all of that. So a lot of these meditations and visualizations that you'll work with will talk about roots because it's a very easy visualization to get you connected to the center of the earth. If you say roots to anybody around the
Everybody knows
world,
what you mean.
we all know what you mean. If you say you are rooted in the earth, that is a phrase that every single person, if they've ever seen a plant, will know what you mean. So it's an easy concept to grasp. So all of these meditations, especially the early ones, will have roots involved in it. Whether you're sitting on your butt, if you're sitting in a lotus position and you're talking about chakras, your base chakra, your Muladhara chakra is right at the base of your spine. So when you're seated, it's touching the earth. Or when you're standing, your feet are touching the earth. They're roots themselves. They look like roots themselves. So these types of meditations are able to kind of get you grounded and feeling that earthy centeredness very easily.
Right.
Magically, earth corresponds to things like the planet, rocks and crystals, dirt, trees, and to concepts like ancestors and time, transformation, hearth, home, family, its centeredness, and even money and stability. In tarot, earth corresponds to pentacles typically. And pentacles will have a lot of that same earth flavor, the groundedness, the family, the centeredness. So you can use these energies and these ideas in your magic if you need to slow down a little bit, if you need to take stock of where you are, if you need to be more centered in your life, you can use these energies in your practice.
Now, there are some deities also associated with Earth. There are different deities related to each element. They are not pigeonholed to that by any means. But a couple of deities that you might be able to connect with and work with to kind of help you feel that Earth energy could include obviously Gaia, but there's also Danu, Demeter, Cernunnos. So these are deity energies that can also help you work with these element energies and kind of
Mhm.
connect you with these. When I think of Gaia as a big pregnant woman, and that pregnant belly is the earth.
Yeah, that's the Oberon Zell image.
Yep.
Oberon had this image of the beautiful woman with the big pregnant earth belly, and
Yep.
you'll see that represented. Yeah, that was created by Oberon Zell, and that's a beautiful representation of the earth goddess. And any earth deity, we've talked about Taltu a few times because
Yep.
she's Lu's foster mother that created agriculture. You have Ceres, you have Persephone and her mother Demeter.
I think Gaia and Cernunnos are probably the standouts for me. Cernunnos slash Green Man. Cernunnos is that horned stag that kind of makes me feel earth. And then you've got the Green Man. His face is made out of the leaves of the tree.
Yeah, any horned god, any of the gods of the wood, any goddesses of the earth or the wood or the
Ellen of
hunt.
the Ways.
Yeah, they're all going to have to do with that earth element. And like you said, not everything, trees are earth and air. I think you could
Right,
even say that they're water. Some people would even say they're fire because they'd be consumed by fire.
right,
So nothing is really purely just one thing.
right, right.
No deity is really purely just one
Just
thing.
one with one
Yeah.
aspect.
And I loved how you said a couple episodes ago that when you're working with herbs or something in particular, you don't have to work with every single thing that that herb corresponds to.
Right.
Right now we're talking about earth. So, yes, these deities correspond to lots of different things, but right now we're talking about their earth
As how
aspect.
it relates to earth.
Yeah, how are
Yeah.
they as it relates to that particular energy? And so when you pick up a crystal, don't worry what kind of crystal it is. That crystal is of the earth.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm thinking of, oh, I want to work with Earth, let me get a crystal. I'm not like, okay, which one? I'm like, all right, what's
It has
closest?
to be a moss agate or nothing. It can be any crystal. I am a feral, crazy witch of the wood, and I will go out and grab myself a stone from my driveway or that cute little pebble that caught my eye when I was on a hike. Does not have to be a pretty crystal. Anything that has to do with the earth works.
All I can think about is last year when we went to Central New York Pagan Pride Day, which, by the way, folks, will be there
Going
again next
again.
month. But I remember when we were there last year, and I think you and I left with like three pocketfuls of acorns. We're
We
just walking
did.
around, and people are like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Oh, we're just picking up acorns, putting them in our pocket. Don't
Yeah.
mind us, mind your business."
Couple fallen leaves, a fallen branch here or there. I mean, I am the witch that grabbed some fallen branches from that 200 plus old willow tree to make us magic wands with. We are that kind of feral woods witch. We do this. It's
But in the
okay.
same respect, I'm a little more glitzy though sometimes. I love my shiny things. I really love my shiny things. So there is something to be said for swinging by your local metaphysical shop,
Sure.
witchcraft shop, stone and gem fair, whatever the case may be, and picking up yourself some nice, pretty shiny stones.
You haven't met a pagan jeweler you haven't liked yet.
That's not a lie. That's not a lie. But it doesn't even have to be jewelry, like just here, right here, I got a big chunk of quartz crystal.
Mm,
And I just happen to grab it because it's close. But quartz crystal is always something that I'm thinking, you hold that in your hand and you hold it tight and you got that earth energy just starts flowing through you.
mhm.
But I say quartz because I just grabbed it first, but I could also grab, a garnet and feel the same exact
Right.
way. It's not about what type of stone it is because all of these stones are a part of the earth and have come from the earth, no matter what their color, their shape, or what some book online or a TikToker tells you their correspondences are. Bottom line, they came from the earth.
And if your intention is to work with the earth energy of it, you're going to get earth energy flavored with whatever the energy of that crystal is. And one of my favorite ways to work with crystals is with something called a stoning meditation. A woman did this that I met a million years ago in Salem and then met again at Brushwood. So, hi, Kate. But she did this great thing with stones. She had all these crystals and one of the things that she would do is have me lay down and she'd place a crystal on my third eye. I would get into a nice, quiet, ready to meditate space, however that works for you, and then put a crystal on your third eye and think about it in relationship to the earth. Let it feel like it's heavy on your forehead. Feel the weight of it.
And we've done this before, Layla, and it's almost like the longer you leave it there, the heavier it feels.
Yeah, those crystals can start to feel really heavy. So pay attention, feel that energy. Just let any feelings go through you, but really feel the weight of it on your third eye. Let it kind of flow through your whole body. Feel the earth or the floor or whatever's underneath you. Feel that connection because somewhere, even if you're in the 75th floor of an apartment building, the earth is somewhere beneath you. And some of that building is created with parts of the earth and it's connected. So you can trace it all the way down to Mother Earth. So feel that stone as it connects itself back to Mother Earth. And then feel that energy as it flows through you. Then, after you've done that for a few minutes, take it off your third eye and write it down in your journal. Write down everything that you felt. How did it make you feel? Did you feel heavy? Did you feel light? Did you feel happy or sad? Write all those things down and then look up what the crystal is and write down the meaning of that particular crystal. And it's okay if it doesn't match because your idea is to connect to the earth, to connect to the earthiness of it, not necessarily to connect to the specific energy of that crystal. That's just kind of a side quest, but just let it help you feel earthy. And then remember that the next time you work with that crystal because it'll have some of those connotations in it.
Now, we have talked a little bit about crystals, but I also want to mention, and I'm going to plug a friend of ours. We have a friend, wonderful, wonderful guy from Ravens Keep Forge. Check him out online, people. He's got a book, he's got a website. Check out Ravens Keep Forge.
Sam Bo Thompson.
Our friend Sam does metal magic and metalworking. And I've always felt that I get that same feeling, not just from crystals, but from metals as well. Because again, metals are all part of the earth. So jewelry, I always feel that earth connection with. I currently have a amethyst ring, sterling silver. So between the stone and the metal, I feel you get that feeling that your finger is encompassed with that earth energy. So I just wanted to mention not just crystals alone, but metal as well. And metal magic is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And again, we've got a great friend who is a metal magic wizard, and you should check him out because it's not just maybe you don't have crystals, maybe you can't get to a crystal store or for whatever reason in your life, it could be dangerous for you to have any sort of quote unquote witchcraft supplies around you. Everybody can wear a ring without judgment, and you're still getting that earth energy from that metal.
Another good thing I like about metal that matches with earth magic is that the earth holds on to things. The earth doesn't tend to give things up easily. And
It's the
neither does
record keeper.
it's the record keeper. Neither does metal. Metal does not let go of things easily. So if you want to set a spell, setting it into the earth, setting it into metal is going to hold on to that spell. It's going to remember it much longer than, say, a candle or writing it on a bay leaf. Those things are much more easily lost.
Right.
Think of a plaque that's written in metal as opposed to a plaque that's carved in wood. The metal one's going to last much longer through much more adverse conditions than the wood one will.
Whereas the wood one could be disposable, metal is less apt to be disposed of.
Right. So that's going to make your spell, your energy last much longer. So earth moves slowly, it holds on to things, and so does metal. So that it's a beautiful representation of that. And it can help you hold those energies. If you need earth energy, you can push into that metal things that it already knows, like staying true to the shape that it was created in, staying steadfast, staying strong. You can enhance the things that it has to help you in the future. So whenever you touch that ring, you remember to stay strong, to hold fast, whatever energies you've put in there.
Right. And you mentioned a ring, say there's a stone in it. Like I mentioned, I have this amethyst ring. You can combine the earth energies of the metal and the earth energies of the stone with maybe some of the other correspondences of that stone. So, maybe you want a tiger's eye ring to get the other aspects of the tiger's eye stone with that metal together. Or, like I have the amethyst. And again, different metals. Maybe you're using gold with a garnet, so it's almost like, and I used to do this with herbs too. You're kind of piecing together which correspondences you're going to use from each ingredient to then create your spell. And again, like you said before, you're not going to be using, you're not pulling on every intention from every ingredient. You're going to say, okay, so I know that I can use bay for protection, and I'm going to use, basil for protection. Obviously, these two things have multitudes of other uses, but you're focusing in on that one energy. Same with your type of metal and your type of stone.
And that goes along with putting things around you that match your intent. So if your intent is to connect with this earth energy and you're talking about Cernunnos, you're talking about Demeter, you've got your plants that you're repotting right there next to you. You've got a stick and a stone from your yard. You've got a ring that you really love that helps to make you feel calmer whenever you touch it. You're putting things around you that remind you of earth, that bring forward that energy. So when you bring in your tools, like you said with the bay, you want it for protection. So you've already got your mindset towards protection, and now you're bringing in the bay. Just ask it. I want you to continue this feeling of protection and this idea of protection, and it will lend that particular energy more strongly. So you don't have to focus on all of them.
Right, right.
I love that. So you can connect with earth very easily, very simply. Walk barefoot. Chelle likes to pick on me for walking barefoot all the time, but it's a fantastic way to connect with the earth. You can do meditations. We'll include a meditation at the end of this episode that you can use to help get connected to earth. Do a tarot reading and just pull out cards that make you think of earth. Pull a whole bunch of pentacles. Pull maybe the Empress that makes you think of the earth or the world. Just pull cards and just focus on those while you do meditations to kind of get you into that earthy mindset.
And if you are able to visualize, if you have that ability, just sit and kind of visualize yourself being that tree and forming those roots into the ground and digging deep your roots into the earth, because you don't have to be touching the earth. Like you said, you could be on your 75th floor high-rise apartment and you can still visualize yourself burying your own roots into that earth, connecting with that deep-seated energies. So if you are able to visualize and meditate, that's also a great way to just tap into that earth energy if you can't go forest bathe or walk barefoot in a field or whatever the case may be.
Labyrinths are also another great way. Walking meditations. If you can just go for a walk, even if it's in the concrete jungle, but just go for a walk somewhere, that is an excellent way to connect with that earth type energy. Don't go fast. Go nice and slow. Feel the earth. Feel each step.
Walk with intention.
Oh, I love that. And if you do have a labyrinth nearby that you can walk, walking a labyrinth is a phenomenal way to feel that earth energy and to walk with intention. Do a walking meditation. And at the Central New York Pagan Pride Day coming up here in September, up in Syracuse, New York, Chelle and I will both be doing presentations. And one of the presentations I'll be doing is to teach you how to draw a labyrinth, whether you draw it on paper and do it with your fingers, or draw in chalk or in cornmeal to do in your backyard, so that anytime you need that type of walking meditation connection, you'll know how to do that.
And I'll be kind of doing a earth/air themed workshop. I will be doing a workshop at Central New York Pagan Pride Day on herbal cartomancy.
Which I love.
Yeah, so we're gonna be mixing some herb energies with some tarot energies, and herbs are very earthy in my mind until the point of burning.
Yeah, again, everything is a little bit everything else, but harvesting herbs that Chelle and I have been doing a lot of this Lunaso season, this first harvest season. We've been gathering the herbs, both planted and wild, and drying them. That's a little bit air and about to be fire once we burn them, but it's very earthy.
They
Harvests.
were earth while they were growing, damn it.
That's right. And just doing that harvest feels so good. Chelle, you mentioned doing you pick, and I just found a you pick blueberry place near me, so I'm definitely going to be doing some of that. There's just so many good things. Now, one last thing before we kind of close off, creating community is also a wonderful way to celebrate earth and that earth energy.
So, Layla, talk to us about creating community, because, we've said in the past how it took my sweet, wonderful witch in another state to find me my beautiful coven here in Salem, that I love these guys so much. It has finally, finally become your turn. Talk
Sort
to
of.
us. Talk to
It's
us.
almost become my turn. Yet again, it seems like I am in a position where there's no groups around me. To get to any type of pagan group, I have to drive 2 hours plus.
How can you be the only witch in a 2 hour radius? I do not buy that bullshit for a hot second.
I don't buy that bullshit for a hot second either, which is why I managed to hook up with a lovely person in my area. I'm going to say her name's Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. You're going to have to be my new best friend too, whether you like it or not. Just giving you the heads up.
You guys are so much alike, it's not even funny. So, but Shannon and I are starting the Crystal City Pagan group, the Crystal City Circle. I think that's going to be the name, where we have a monthly meetup, meet and greet, classes, workshops. We'll be doing Sabbats and Esbats, and our first one will be later this month in August. So that's going to be happening in Corning, New York. And I am very, very excited. Shannon's amazing. All the people that we've reached out to have been amazing. So I think this is going to be the start of a fantastic community. So if you can find a community near you, Mandragora Magica is a great resource for that. Go to your local UU, your local metaphysical shop, or if you're, like me, maybe start your own. But community is a great way to celebrate the earth.
But if you are in South Central New York or Northeast Pennsylvania and you are in the Elmira Corning region, please reach out to Layla because she's trying to form this group and she needs some witches around her because I feel guilty that I have such a lovely group of
You
witches around me
do.
now. And
And
you need a love,
hi.
but that doesn't negate that we're still the OGs, man.
That's right. We're the OGs. And I do love your coven. I have not met them in person yet, but I do love them all. And I can't wait till we all hang out. It's going to be
And
amazing.
Shannon's my new best friend, so
That's
she
right.
doesn't know it yet, but she is.
Yes. And thank you to all of our best friend listeners. We love you guys. We hope you're enjoying your harvest season. Thank you so much for listening to us talk about Earth and Earth energies. And next week, we'll be doing our next element, which is
Air,
air.
which Layla, you know I love air because I'm an air sign.
I am also an air sign. So, yes, this is going to be all about us. We're going to celebrate our airness. Is that a thing? Anyway, airheadedness? No, that's not right.
No, don't say that. Our wispy nature.
Our wisdom. How's that? Air, our wisdom, our communication abilities. Yes, we'll be talking all things air, Chelle and Laylla.
So stay tuned. Part two, air, be there or be air.
And in the meantime, stay wise, stay wicked.
And keep it witchy, folks.